agreed to be a surrogate for my sister and her husband, but am regretting it now. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to say this, but I think I might have made the biggest mistake of my life. I agreed to be a surrogate for my sister and her husband. It sounded noble, it sounded selfless, it sounded like the kind of thing a good sister would do. But right now, sitting here 6 months pregnant with a baby that technically isn't mine, I feel trapped in a nightmare I can't wake up from. And the worst part? I'm not even sure my sister and her husband deserve this baby anymore. The breaking point came last night. I was lying in bed when I heard them arguing in the kitchen downstairs. I thought maybe it was the usual stress, money or something, but then I caught pieces of what they were saying. My brother-in-law's voice, low and furious. She's too attached. She's not going to let go. I told you this would happen. And then my sister, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. Don't worry. Once that baby is out, she won't have a choice. My blood went cold. I don't even know how long I stood there in the hallway listening. My own sister, my flesh and blood, talking about me like I was just some disposable incubator. And the way her husband said it, like he was scared of me, like I was the problem, it hit me in the gut. Now I'm staring at the ceiling, one hand on my stomach, wondering if I've been used this entire time. Because here's the thing, when I first agreed to this, it wasn't just some random arrangement. My sister and I have always had a complicated relationship. She's older by 12 years, practically raised me when my parents weren't around, but she was never gentle about it. Always critical, always controlling, always making me feel like I owed her something. When she married young and started struggling with fertility, I saw the pain it caused her. Round after round of IVF, miscarriage after miscarriage, it broke her in ways I couldn't imagine. So when she asked me to be her surrogate, I said yes, no hesitation. I wanted to give her the happiness she'd been chasing for over a decade. I thought I was strong enough that I could separate myself from the process. After all, it wouldn't even be my egg. They used hers, fertilized with her husband's sperm. On paper, I was just the vessel. But paper doesn't prepare you for what it feels like when the baby starts kicking inside you. Paper doesn't account for the bond forming every single day. The beginning was almost peaceful. We celebrated when the first ultrasound showed a heartbeat. My sister cried like a child, clutching my hand, thanking me over and over. Her husband hugged me for the first time in years, his face split with a grin I'd never seen before. For a little while, it felt good. It felt right. But slowly, things started to shift. It began with small comments. My sister micromanaging what I ate, what I wore, even how much I walked. If I had a craving, she'd lecture me about toxins. If I wanted to rest, she'd remind me the baby needed activity. She bought a second phone so she could check in with me at all times. Then came the appointments. She insisted on coming to every one, sitting between me and the doctor, answering questions like she was the patient. Once, when the doctor asked how I was feeling, she cut me off with, "She's fine, we're focused on the baby." I should have said something then, but I didn't. I just smiled and nodded because I told myself this was her dream, not mine. But the cracks grew deeper. My brother-in-law started acting strange too. At first he was polite, distant like always, but then he started showing up at my place when my sister wasn't around, bringing me food, offering to help with chores. I brushed it off as kindness until one night he stayed too long, sitting on my couch talking about how grateful he was. The way he looked at me made my skin crawl. That was 2 months ago. Now I've noticed whispers between them when they think I'm not listening, arguments that cut off the second I walk into the room. My sister's sudden paranoia, like she doesn't trust me to hand over the baby when the time comes. And now, after hearing what they said last night, I can't shake the feeling that they don't see me as family anymore. I'm not her little sister, not someone who sacrificed her body and peace of mind for them. To them, I'm just the machine carrying their child. The baby kicked while I was writing this. I froze, my hand pressed against my stomach, and the thought hit me like lightning. What if I can't let go? What if when they come to take the baby, I refuse? I can't believe I'm even thinking this, but the way my sister's voice sounded, the cold certainty in it, it's like she's already decided she'll rip this baby from me whether I want to or not. And maybe I don't want to. I don't know how to untangle myself from this mess. All I know is the walls are closing in, and the baby inside me is the only thing keeping me steady. But if last night proved anything, it's that my sister and her husband are already preparing for a fight. And I'm starting to wonder if this is a fight I'm willing to give them.
I haven't told anyone about what I overheard that night. Not my friends, not my parents, not even my therapist. It's like the words carved themselves into me and now I'm carrying them alongside the baby. She's too attached. She's not going to let go. Once that baby is out, she won't have a choice. It's been a week, but I can't get those lines out of my head. They echo when I'm brushing my teeth, when I'm folding laundry, when I'm trying to fall asleep. Even when the baby kicks, that joy I feel is tainted because I immediately picture my sister's voice, cold and certain, planning for the day she'll take it all away. I thought maybe the tension would ease up, but instead it's gotten worse. She comes over almost every morning now, unannounced. At first, she'd knock. Now she just uses the spare key I gave her back when this all started, like she owns the place. I'll be sitting in my pajamas, half asleep with a bowl of cereal, and she'll breeze in with that smile plastered on her face. "Time for your walk," she'll chirp, like I'm a dog that needs exercise. If I protest, she reminds me that the baby's health comes first. I've started to feel like a guest in my own home. Sometimes I lock the bathroom door and just sit there, fully clothed, pretending to shower so I can have a few minutes of privacy. But the worst part isn't the control. It's the doubt. She's my sister. She's been through hell with her miscarriages. She's the one who held me when I broke my leg at 12, the one who fought off bullies in middle school, the one who let me stay with her after I broke up with my college boyfriend. She's family. So every time I start to get angry, guilt hits me like a wave. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe she's just anxious, afraid of losing this baby like all the others. But then I see her eyes when she talks about the baby. Not soft, not hopeful, possessive. Like the baby's already hers and I'm just in the way. And my brother-in-law? God, I don't even know what to make of him anymore. He's gone back to being distant, like he knows he crossed some line when he lingered too long at my apartment that night. But now when he looks at me, there's a flicker of something. Fear? Disgust? Maybe both. 2 nights ago, I had a dream that he was standing over my bed, holding the baby in his arms while my sister pulled me back by the wrists, hissing in my ear, "It was never yours." I woke up drenched in sweat, clutching my belly so hard it hurt. I don't want to be dramatic, but it feels like they're closing in on me. Even the doctor's office has stopped being a safe place. At my last appointment, my sister argued with the nurse because she thought they weren't checking enough things. "You're missing something," she snapped, as if she knew better than the professionals. The nurse looked at me, clearly annoyed, but I just sat there in silence. What was I supposed to say? She's not even the patient. I am? That would have been true, but it also would have set my sister off. Afterwards, in the car, she turned to me and said, "I don't like how passive you're being. You're carrying the most precious thing in the world and you're treating it like it's nothing." That one stung. Because she doesn't see what I do at night. How I whisper to the baby, telling them about the world, about the kind of mother I could be. How I cry quietly into my pillow when I think about handing them over. How I've stopped painting, stopped going out with friends, stopped everything, because all my energy is focused on this little life. Passive? No. I'm just quietly drowning. I've thought about reaching out for legal advice, just to know what my options are. But every time I Google surrogacy rights, I end up slamming the laptop shut before I get too far, because looking it up feels like admitting something dangerous, that I'm considering not giving this baby to them. And that thought terrifies me. Yesterday, something happened that I can't stop replaying. My sister came over with baby clothes she'd bought, tiny onesies, socks so small they could fit in the palm of my hand. She spread them out on my couch like it was a showroom, her eyes shining with pride. Then she turned to me and said, "Don't get too attached. You're just the bridge, remember? This is my baby." I froze. I wanted to scream. Instead, I nodded like a coward. Later that night, I sat in the dark with the onesies still draped over the couch, running the fabric through my fingers. I imagined the baby in them, yawning, stretching, looking up at me, and I realized those clothes weren't hers to show off. Not yet. The baby's not even here yet. And in that moment, something snapped. I whispered to my belly, "You're mine. No matter what they say, you're mine right now." It was the first time I admitted it out loud, and it scared the hell out of me. Because if my sister ever found out I said that, I don't know what she'd do. I don't know if there's a clean way to explain how things spiraled so fast. It started with another surprise visit. My sister showed up early in the morning, letting herself in like always. I was half asleep, still in bed, when I heard her footsteps moving around my kitchen. She didn't even knock this time. She made herself coffee, put toast in my toaster, and then came into my bedroom like she owned the place. "Come on, you should be up by now," she said, wonking open my curtains so the sunlight burned my eyes. "We need to go over the birth plan." I wanted to tell her to leave, to slam the door in her face, or at least scream at her to get out of my room. But I didn't. Instead, I sat there, with my hands wrapped around my stomach, blinking through tears, too tired to fight. That's when she dropped it. I talked to an attorney yesterday, just to make sure everything's airtight. You can't change your mind, not after all the money we've put in. Something in my chest cracked. She'd gone behind my back. She was already locking me into something I hadn't even fully agreed to on paper. You did what?" My voice shook. She smiled, that smile that doesn't reach her eyes. "Don't worry, it's all taken care of. Once the baby's here, we'll handle everything." That word, we, it gutted me. I wasn't included in it. I was just the vessel. I stood up, shaking. "You can't just decide that without me. This is still my body, my baby." The second I said it, my baby, I knew I'd crossed a line I couldn't step back from. Her face hardened instantly. "Don't ever say that again." Her voice dropped to a whisper, but it was sharper than a knife. "You're confused. You agreed to this. You can't back out now. Do you have any idea how cruel that would be to us, after everything?" I tried to argue, but she cut me off. "You think you're the victim here? You think carrying this baby gives you some kind of claim? You're nothing but the carrier. That's what we agreed." And then, she said something I'll never forget. "If you try to keep it, we'll destroy you. Legally, financially, whatever it takes." I was shaking so hard, I had to grab the wall to steady myself. It wasn't my sister's voice I heard. It was a stranger's, someone willing to tear me apart to get what she wanted. That night, I locked every door and window in my apartment. I shoved a chair under the front doorknob like I'd seen in movies. I even left the TV on to make it seem like someone else was there. But sleep wouldn't come. Every creak of the building made me sit up in bed, clutching my stomach. My heart wouldn't stop racing. I kept replaying her words, "will destroy you." Then, sometime after midnight, I heard it. The rattle of the doorknob. At first, I thought I imagined it, but then it came again. Slow, deliberate, like someone testing how much force it would take to get in. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. Max, my neighbor's dog, started barking down the hall. My phone was on the nightstand, but my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. And then I remembered. She had a key. The sound of metal scraping against the lock confirmed it. She was trying to get in. I pressed my back against the wall, my hand over my belly, and whispered, "Please, please don't." But the lock turned. The door began to open.
The door opened slow, too slow, like she wanted me to hear every second of it. I couldn't move. My whole body locked up as the thin line of hallway light cut across the floor of my apartment. And then, her, my sister, standing there like she owned the place, holding her purse on her arm like she'd just stopped by for tea. "What are you doing here?" My voice came out as a whisper, raw and panicked. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing, that strange smile stretching across her face. "Why are you acting like this? You're overreacting. I came to check on you. That's what family does." But the way she stepped inside, the slow, careful placement of her shoes on the hardwood, her eyes locked on me the whole time, it didn't feel like family. It felt like a hunter making sure the trap had closed. I backed toward my bedroom, but she followed. Not fast, just steady. Like she knew I had nowhere to go. "You shouldn't lock me out," she said, almost sing-song, like she was talking to a child. "That's not safe. What if something happened to you and the baby? Don't you want someone you trust close by?" Close by didn't feel like comfort. It felt like prison bars. "Get out," my voice cracked, but I forced the words out. "This is my place. You can't just let yourself in whenever you feel like it." Her face flickered. Surprise, maybe. Then anger. But it was gone in a heartbeat, smoothed over with another too bright smile. "You're hormonal. It's normal. I'm not going anywhere. Not until you calm down." I shook my head, clutching my belly so tight it hurt. "You don't get to decide that." And that's when she dropped the mask. Her voice went cold, flat. "You're not keeping that baby. Do you understand me? It was never yours. It was always ours. If I have to move into this apartment and watch you 24/7 to make sure you don't get any ideas, I will." My blood ran ice cold. "Please," I tried to speak, but she cut me off. "Do you think anyone would believe you?" She gestured around my apartment. "You've been emotional, unstable. You've said it yourself. You're overwhelmed. If I tell them you're unfit, they'll listen to me. They'll take it from you." I stumbled back until my legs hit the bed frame. My chest heaved. Every breath like knives. She was in front of me now, close enough that I could see the shine of sweat on her temple, that wild brightness in her eyes. "You won't let me ruin this," she whispered. And then she reached out, not for me, for my stomach. Her hand, cold and steady, pressed against where the baby kicked. I flinched hard, trying to push her away, but she dug her nails in through my shirt, not letting go. The room spun. The sound of my pulse drowned out everything. For one sickening second, I thought she might actually try to hurt me, hurt the baby. I shoved her, hard. She staggered back, hitting the nightstand, knocking the lamp over. The bulb shattered on the floor, plunging the room into flickering half-dark. And that's when she smiled again. Not the fake polite smile, not even the cold one. This was worse. Pure triumph. "See," she hissed. "This is why you'll lose. You're dangerous. You just proved it." She grabbed her purse, stormed out, and slammed the door so hard the walls shook. I collapsed onto the bed, trembling, trying to understand what had just happened. But one thought cut through everything else. She wasn't bluffing. She was going to destroy me, and she had all the power to do it. The knock came 3 days later. Not the hesitant tap of a neighbor, not the friendly rap of a delivery guy. This was sharp, demanding. I opened the door and froze. 2 people stood there, a woman in a blazer holding a clipboard, and a man in a polo with a badge clipped to his belt. "Are you Opie's name?" the woman asked. "Yes," I whispered. "We're here from Child Protective Services," she said. "We need to ask you some questions." My stomach dropped to the floor. They stepped in without waiting for an invitation. The man's eyes scanned the apartment, pausing on the broken lamp still in the corner, the dishes in the sink, the pile of laundry I hadn't had the energy to fold. The woman's pen scratched across her clipboard as she asked about my health, my mental state, whether I had support, whether I ever felt unsafe. But I already knew. I knew who had called them. My sister. Every word, every warning she'd thrown at me in my bedroom, it was all part of this. She'd set me up. That night, I called her. My voice shook with rage. What did you tell them? Silence. Then a low laugh. Only the truth. You pushed me. You screamed at me. You're unstable. I'm worried about the baby. You're twisting everything, I hissed. No, I'm protecting my child. Her child. Not mine. Not ours. Hers. And she believed it so fully, so completely, that it didn't matter what the truth was. The next week was a blur of appointments, questions, paperwork. My sister showed up with her husband, sitting across from me in meetings, wearing that perfect mask of concern. She told them she loved me, but she was worried. She told them she'd take the baby if I couldn't handle it. And everyone believed her. Even my parents, started to falter. She just wants what's best for the baby, my mom said over the phone. You've been under so much stress. Maybe letting her help? Help? I snapped. She's trying to steal my child. But the more I shouted, the more hysterical I sounded. The more hysterical I sounded, the more it played right into her hands. The breaking point came in court. Yes, court. My sister had filed for emergency custody before the baby was even born. She sat there, in her neat little dress, her husband's arm around her, telling the judge she feared for my stability, for the baby's safety. And I, 8 months pregnant, exhausted, trembling, looked like a mess. I wanted to scream. I wanted to stand up and tell them everything, but every time I opened my mouth, my lawyer squeezed my arm and shook his head, whispering, "Calm. Stay calm." How could I stay calm while my own sister tried to erase me? When it was my turn to speak, I told the judge the truth. That my sister had crossed boundaries, that she'd broken into my home, that she'd grabbed me, that she was obsessed with controlling the pregnancy. But her lawyer leaned forward, voice smooth as glass. Do you have evidence of these claims? I faltered. But no? Then it's your word against hers. And you've admitted you're under stress, that your hormones are affecting you, that you've had arguments. Isn't it possible you're misremembering events? My heart hammered so loud I could barely hear myself say, no. I know what happened. The judge studied us both. Then she said she'd reserve her decision until after the birth, which meant everything was still hanging over my head. I walked out of that courtroom hollow. My sister brushed past me in the hallway, leaned close, and whispered, "You're not strong enough to win this. Just give up. Hand her over. I'll raise her right." Her words echoed in my skull over and over until I thought I'd lose my mind. The baby kicked inside me hard, like she knew I was crumbling. That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment, tears streaming down my face, and asked myself the hardest question of my life. Do I give up? For peace? For survival? Or do I fight, knowing it could destroy me? And then I remembered, her hand pressing into my belly, nails digging through my shirt. I remembered the triumph in her smile when the lamp shattered. I remembered how certain she looked when she called the baby hers. And I knew. I would fight until my last breath. Not just for me, for my daughter. Because if I gave up now, she would never know who her real mother was. And I refused to let my sister erase me. The contractions came in the dead of night. I woke to a pain like nothing I had ever felt before, sharp and all-consuming, tearing me out of a restless sleep. For a few seconds, I couldn't even place what was happening. My body shook, my sheets clung damp to my skin, and then it hit me. This was it. I was in labor. The baby was coming. I sat on the edge of my bed, clutching my swollen belly, and 1,000 thoughts collided in my head. I wasn't ready. Not for the pain, not for the hospital, not for what came after. I had spent months fighting, clawing, screaming against the storm my sister had dragged into my life, and yet here I was, utterly unprepared for the moment that mattered most. The baby. My baby. And the terrifying possibility that I might walk out of the hospital without her. I called my parents first. My mom picked up on the second ring, her voice panicked but steady. "Okay, sweetheart, we'll meet you at the hospital. Don't worry. You're going to be fine." But it wasn't my mom I feared. It wasn't my dad. It was her. Sure enough, less than an hour later, as I lay in triage, sweating through contractions, I heard her voice float into the hallway. Sweet, calm, warm. "I'm her sister. We're very close. I'll need to be with her through this." My heart plummeted. The nurse glanced at me. "Do you want her in the room?" I shook my head so hard it made me dizzy. No, please. I don't want her here." The nurse frowned, but nodded. She left, and I heard muffled voices in the hall, my sister insisting, the nurse refusing, my mother trying to calm things. When the door finally opened again, it was just my mom who slipped in. She looked tired, worried, but she smiled as she took my hand. "Focus on you, honey. Don't think about anything else right now." But how could I not? Hours blurred into agony, pushing, screaming, gasping. And then suddenly, it was over. The baby's cry split the air.
My daughter. My beautiful, furious daughter. They placed her on my chest, tiny and perfect and alive. I sobbed, clutching her against me, every fight, every wound, every desperate night crashing into this single blinding moment of love. And yet, even then, even as I whispered promises into her damp hair, I felt it, the shadow pressing against the door, the claim waiting to be made. My sister wasn't gone. She was just waiting. The first week home was fragile, dreamlike. I barely slept, but not from exhaustion. It was fear. The phone rang constantly. Lawyers, social workers, CPS. My sister filed more papers, requesting visitation rights for the baby's stability. She sent messages, too. "How's my girl? Have you thought about what's best for her? You can't do this on your own." Every time I saw her name light up my phone, I wanted to throw it across the room. But the worst was the day she showed up in person. It was raining really hard, the kind of storm that makes the world look gray and endless. I had just put the baby down when the doorbell rang. I knew. Before I even looked through the peephole, I knew. She stood there, soaked through, hair plastered to her face, clutching a gift bag with pink tissue paper poking out the top. "Please," she said when I cracked the door, "just let me see her, just for a second." "No." Her smile faltered. "She's my niece. She's my daughter." Her face hardened, and for a moment I saw it again, the same look she had in my bedroom, the same look in the courtroom. Cold, certain, triumphant. "This isn't over," she whispered. Then she turned and walked away. I stood there, trembling, the baby stirring in the other room, and I knew she would never stop. The court date came 3 weeks later. The courtroom was cold, sterile, humming with whispers and shuffling papers. My sister sat across from me, her husband at her side, both dressed to perfection. Her lawyer leaned in, pointing at documents, rehearsing lines. My lawyer tried to steady me. "Stay calm. Remember, truth matters. If you lose your temper, she wins." But calm felt impossible. The judge entered, the bailiff called order, and just like that, it began. Her lawyer painted a picture of me as unstable, erratic, overwhelmed. He pointed to the CPS visit, to my late-night messages to my mom, where I admitted I felt scared, to the fights we'd had. He said I was unfit. Then, my sister took the stand. She cried. She told them how much she loved me, how much she loved the baby, how she'd only ever wanted to help. She said she feared I'd spiral, that the baby would suffer. And then she dropped the bomb. She begged me to take the baby if she couldn't handle it. "That's not true," I shouted, half rising from my chair. "Order," the judge snapped. But the damage was done. The room buzzed with her words. Begged me to take the baby. Then it was my turn. I told them everything. The manipulation, the control, the night she came into my home, the threats. But without proof, it sounded like a desperate plea. Like hysteria. Until the lawyer stood up for cross-examination and asked the one question that cracked everything open. "Why are you so certain this child belongs with you?" And my sister, smug, eyes glinting, smiled and said, "Because she was supposed to be mine." The room went silent. Even her lawyer froze. She kept talking, unaware of the trap she'd just walked into. She explained how she'd promised, how the pregnancy was for her, how I had no right to keep the baby now. And just like that, the mask slipped. The judge leaned forward, expression hard. "So to be clear, you believe this child belongs to you, not as an aunt, but as her rightful mother?" "Yes," my sister said. "Exactly." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. My lawyer seized the moment, ripping her testimony apart, showing how her obsession had blurred every boundary, how her fixation proved she was unfit. By the end, she was unraveling on the stand, shouting, crying, insisting over and over that the baby was hers. But the damage was done. Everyone saw it. Everyone heard it. The judge's ruling came swift and final. Full custody to me. No visitation, no contact. I thought it was over. I thought the nightmare had ended. But the twist, the devastating twist, came weeks later. I was nursing the baby one quiet evening when my phone buzzed with a new message. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something in me, some dread I couldn't name, made me open it. A photo appeared. My sister, holding my daughter. Not a recent photo, not from the hospital. From inside my own apartment. Taken in those fragile first days when I was too exhausted to notice, too trusting to check. And underneath, a message. "I told you, she was always mine." I dropped the phone. My arms tightened instinctively around my daughter, and for the first time, a new fear crawled up my spine. Not just that she wanted my baby, but that she had already been closer than I ever realized. Closer than I could bear to imagine. And if she had found her way in once, what was stopping her from doing it again?